we're delighted to have the chairman of Vista Bank, one of Africa's homegrown banks, with ambitions to become a global Pan-African bank.
Exactly.
So we're delighted to have you here, but you're also the chairman of of the holding that also operates in mining and other areas. But today we'll probably focus on finance. And my first question is really, how important is it to have to own our own financial institutions and support our own financial institutions to help them grow, to be able to finance our own development? No one has managed to develop with the help or the money of others.
No, it is. First of all, thanks for having me. I think it's critical. It's critical to have our own banks, our own financial institutions, our own development finance institutions, our own MDBs that can come together to provide the very much required funding that we need to develop Africa. Africa is blessed today with a dividend demographic. We have a lot of commodities. The one thing that we don't do today, we don't transform our raw materials. So we need to transform our golds and create more gold refinery, transform our cotton, our copper, our cobalt in Africa, our manganese to add some added value. We need to have factories that can go all the way to the finished product and produce iPhone, for instance, in Africa. And the banks like Vista Bank, like Afreximbank, AFC, can provide the funding for that for the entrepreneurs and for the government that wants to undertake this type of project. One thing that you will see today that every African country has a national economic development plan, which is our blueprint for growth. And what we do is to go shop those plans overseas. And obviously, the foreign capital comes with its own requirements. And we have seen a recent change in the market whereby the U.S. is defunding all of their operation globally, especially in Africa. So it's on us to overtake and to be responsible and to take care of our own finance, our own development mandates, and provide funding to our government, provide funding to our entrepreneurs to support Africa growth. And Vista Bank stand ready to do that alongside with Afreximbank.
And you've been operating across different countries on the continent, but I would say that you've experienced a fragmentation of that regulatory environment firsthand. So how can we do better on the regulatory front to help and support entrepreneurs such as yourself to help deliver on their vision, but not just to help deliver on their vision, but to help deliver on their vision quickly, now, tomorrow?
I think it's critical that regulators support African banks, and especially global Pan-African banks such as ourselves are trying to establish themselves across the continent, to be ready for the Africa Free Trade Area, which will be the largest, essentially, trading, I would say, market in the globe. And so the regulators have the role to play. And I think the regulators have to have a constructive and development mandate to support African-led institutions to also, for us to be able to provide the required funding and to play also our role in the development of our continent. And I think that's a call for all of the regulators, instead of just what we have seen, for instance, when there was crisis in Europe or crisis in America, the regulators stepped in to help the banks. And you have big banks in Europe, big banks in America, because the regulatory environment was conducive for American banks, for Asian banks, for European banks to play the role in developing those continents. Our regulators can also, some are constructive, and we want every regulator to also help Pan-African banks such as Vista Bank, Afreximbank, or any other financial institution that is African-led to also play the role in having our development mandate to develop the continent.
So I was speaking to a number of bankers, and they were saying that in certain cases, the regulators put too many capital constraints on the banks, which means that actually we're not supporting them enough to help lend to the productive sectors of the economy and to help them grow as such. So you're saying that they need to be more forward-thinking on that?
I think they need to be more forward-thinking. I think you need to speak to the bank to understand their needs. Putting some regulatory requirements that doesn't match the local market, essentially creates some sort of dysfunction. And the bank needs capital to do business. But there's got to be some conversation to understand what the bank really needs to be able to meet the demand of the market while also trying to meet the regulatory requirements that's imposed on us. I think that's the two have to come together. But when there's a stringent rule from the regulatory perspective that does not meet the market demand, the banks find themselves in the middle, and it's impossible to try to reconcile the gap. There's a conversation to have. We're hoping to have it, and we hope that through dialogue that we have, through session like this that Afreximbank set up, African financial institutions and regulatory central banks from Africa will come together to discuss and find the right way and how we can find a good compromise to support our economy. They have a role to play, and we also have a role to play, and we both want the development of our continent, and we need to discuss how we can do it together.
And it's interesting in terms of your own personal journey as Vista, in terms of how you've managed to grow and buy, for example, Societe Generale in Mozambique and in other countries. So you've leveraged Afreximbank's balance sheet ultimately to be able to help you on that growth journey and to make those acquisitions, which is, I think it's very forward thinking and it's pretty unique in the marketplace. And we're seeing Afreximbank playing a role of maybe what you would see in more mature markets of a hedge funds or or PE or private capital. So tell us a little bit about the business model that you've applied and your relationship with the bank.
Look, it's simple, right? So we're trying to grow Vista Bank in 25, 26 countries by 2026. Not only in Africa, but also create the infrastructure outside of Africa to support our business in Africa, to support other financial institutions in Africa. Afreximbank has been a strategic partner of ours in providing the debt financing while we provide the equity financing to make some of our acquisitions. They supported us in acquiring BNP Paribas. We acquired Southern Mozambique with our own capital and no debt. And, strategically, we will see where we will need Afreximbank to support our strategic growth. However, one thing that is absolutely important is just that when we're present in a country, we work with Afreximbank as a trade finance intermediaries by doing co-financing, co-sharing risk, providing financing for infrastructure projects that government needs. So our presence in every country essentially has helped Afrexim fuel and grow his own balance sheet. So it's been mutually beneficial that we grow, and as we grow, Afrexim also grow in the countries where we operate.
Chairman, it's been great to have you on Afreximbank TV.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.